George Norrie with you. L.A. Marzulli back with us. L.A., welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, you have pumped out another one on the Trail of the Nephilim series. This one is called Out of Place Artifacts. What's going on here?
Well, you know, it's amazing because I've traveled not all over the world, but I've traveled to a lot of places. And every now and then you see something, I see something, and I kind of go, this is out of place. This doesn't belong here. From Peru to the Vatican to over in Israel to Spain to Portugal. I mean, we didn't do everything, but we got enough of them to create, I think, which is a great film. I think it's an important film because it shows that something else is going on here, something which it's not jiving with the official record, as it were.
How many different artifacts are we talking about?
Well, I mean, you've got everything from the Vatican Obelisk, and I'll never forget when we were over in Italy and we were touring there. So I'm in Vatican Square. I'll never forget it. And I'm walking around this obelisk thing, and I'm kind of going to myself, what's wrong with this picture? I mean, what am I looking at here? And so I got back to our room, and I Googled it, and sure enough, this thing comes from Heliopolis in Egypt. And actually, Caesar Augustus brought it over in 35 BC. But this obelisk is made out of red granite, and it was probably at least another 1,500 years before that where this thing was constructed. There's no hieroglyphics on it. No one knows who created it. It just winds up in Heliopolis. A special barge is created to move this thing back into Rome, and then Caesar Augustus erects this thing. Later on, Caligula uses it. I mean, but I'm looking at this thing thinking to myself, oh my gosh, it's like, I think 300 tons. It's 84 feet high. And here's the kicker. This is red granite. This is really hard stuff. We actually interviewed Jim Vieira, and Jim weighs in on this thing, and he's looking at the obelisk like I am, and he's going, wait a minute, where does this thing come from? Who created this obelisk? Because you go back, let's just go 2,000 years. Now you're in the Iron Age, and okay, iron's a different deal. But you go back into the Bronze Age, or even before that, where this thing was allegedly made, and it begs the question, how the heck did they do it? George, for every centimeter or inch or 16th of an inch that this thing rises, the diameter, circumference of this thing is changing. It's changing all the time. So people will say, well, you can take a chalk line and go to the quarry and snap it and, chink, 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 chink. Yeah, but this is granite. You can't really dent granite with a copper chisel. Just show me how you cut the obelisk. And the sides are polished. And then how do you move it? When it was moved, I think it was 1586, one pope decided to move it. The guy's name was Sixtus, Pope Sixtus V. So he decides to move this obelisk. And they've got etchings of it, which are just mind-boggling when you look at what it took to move this thing, just a few hundred yards. I mean, that's all they did. It's like 900 men and 300 horses. And when I say that, they were all positioned around the obelisk with ropes and pulleys and levers and blocks of wood. I mean, the production is unbelievable to move this thing.
I was going to say, how did they even loosen it, L.A., to get it to move?
Well, exactly. It's unbelievable. And so there's a few of these things around on the planet. I look at that, and in my opinion, this is Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology is what we're looking at. Because the technology that created that, in my opinion, is no longer on the planet. Archaeologists will look at my statement and scoff and laugh. But then you go to another place, and we sat down with an archaeologist there, Sacsayhuamán, in Peru. These megalithic stones are polygonal in shape. They're 60, 100 tons, 40 tons, 70 tons, polygonal shape. And, I'm not, obviously, other people have looked at this. Eric Van Daniken, I remember reading his book as a kid, as a teenager, and going, my gosh, I've got to go there, and then winding up there at some point. A lot of us have looked at it, talked about it. I know Ancient Aliens did a whole thing at Sacsayhuamán, but the bottom line is this. If you cannot cut andesite stone with a copper chisel, and moreover, how do you move 60 tons of stone? So it's nothing new, but is it an out-of-place artifact? You bet your boots it is.
Explain to us, kind of paint us a picture of the obelisk itself in terms of what it looks like.
84 feet tall, 300 tons. It's pink granite. It's highly polished. Pope Sixtus V, why did he do this? After they moved it, he performed a rite of exorcism on it. And that begs the question, what did he know that we're not being told? Why would the Pope perform a rite of exorcism on the obelisk? I mean, granted, Caesar Augustus brings it over, Caligula erects it, and what was the Circus Circus. But when Pope, by the time, this is 1586, and it's 900 men and 300 horses, depending on what account you actually read. It's either 3 months or 6 months or 9 months to move the obelisk. It's just a few hundred yards, if that, from one area to the other. And, of course, it's an unbelievable undertaking, as we talked about. But the Pope performs this rite of exorcism, and that is now carved into the base of the obelisk. And what's amazing, millions of people go by this thing every single year. I mean, millions of people see it, go by it. And how many people are just inquisitive enough to go in and start, well, where did this thing really come, like I was? Because I looked at it and said, something's wrong with this picture.
You went back to Peru. What did you find there?
Well, there's a lot of different sites in Peru, and it's just absolutely, if you've never been there, if you've never looked down at Sacsayhuamán from the little plateau, and you look across the plaza, and there's Sacsayhuamán, or you go to Ollantaytambo, and you look at the stones, the megalithic stones and the way they're constructed. Modern-day archaeologists insist that the Inca built these, but those of us with eyes to see look at this and go, you're smoking something, and you're dishing out a lot of hooey. You can see the difference between the Inca slop, which is really a nice wall, but in comparison to what is actually there, the ancient megalithic structures are done in such a pristine, workmanlike way that to do it today on any of these sites, could you do it? Possibly. But you're looking at some of these stones like 60, 80, 100 tons. How do you move them? And, you go back a couple of thousand years before the horse was there. You've got llamas. I'm not buying that for a second. And the quarry is, according to Brian Forrester, about 40 miles away and at a lower elevation. And apparently, I've never been to the quarry, but Brian has. And he said a lot of these stones were quarried high up on the cliff, so how was that done? Moreover, when you go to places like Ollantaytambo, some of the stones which have been thrown down by some sort of a cataclysmic event, they're odd-shaped. They're just not stones like a pillar or just a square or a rectangle. They have extremely weird shapes in them. Something is cut into them. They've been shaped very deliberately to do something. Those of us who've looked at it basically posit that what we may be looking at is some sort of ancient machine that was destroyed thousands and thousands of years ago. So I sat there with an archaeologist. He's actually an archaeoastronomer. And this gentleman, Andre Agassi, believes, as I do, that we're looking at technology which is no longer on the planet. It's not here. I mean, you can't duplicate this today. And so we're sitting in front of this area which has been cut out. And it looks like some machine was thrust into the rock. It's all polished. The corners are pristine. There are no chisel marks or grinding marks, anything like that. It's completely void of anything. And so you start putting these things together. And I've been on some of these sites like Machu Picchu, and the docents will sit there and tell us that the Inca were master stone builders. And you just want to scream because you guys are just parroting what you were told to say. Obviously, there are two different builders here. The Inca came in and repurposed the stone, just like we see in Egypt, where the later Egyptians come in and repurpose these very, very ancient megalithic sites. But we see this all around the globe. Other people come in and they repurpose the site. We see it here in the Americas in places like the Octagon Mountain, the Circle Mountain. And what we discovered, I'm kind of hopping around here, but what we discovered, you want to talk about out-of-place artifacts, is just mind-boggling. But certainly Peru is high on the list of out-of-place artifacts where you actually come into a site like Machu Picchu and you look at it and you kind of go, oh my gosh, why? And who did this? And why was it abandoned? All these sites have something in common. in that they are abandoned and abandoned very abruptly. Wherever I go, and I mentioned, Machu Picchu, and when you arrive there, that site was lost. No one knew it was there. I mean, the natives around the area knew it was there. But even today, just to get to the top of it, it's actually extremely harrowing. You think they put like a ski lift it or something. But you get on the bus and it's very circuitous, and you do all these switchbacks, and you wind your way up the mountain, and finally there you are. And I'll never forget just coming into the gateway, and there's this ancient megalithic site, and the stones are huge, absolutely huge. And of course, that begs the question: how were they moved? How were they cut? Moreover, who did it? Out of place artifacts, absolutely all day long.
L.A., you talk a lot about the fallen angel technology. Is that the same as ET technology?
I would say no. We have to define our terms. ET is extraterrestrial. So by definition, anything that doesn't originate or is born or comes from planet Earth is an extraterrestrial. I prefer interdimensional entity, and I believe that these entities came here, set up shop. They did it over and over and over again. They were destroyed in the Great Flood, and every culture on the planet has a flood story of some sort, so we know that it happened. It's a question of, why were these sites abandoned, circling back to what I was just saying. Why are these sites abandoned? Why are they there in the first place? And how is it that we would have trouble duplicating some of the, certainly Sacsayhuamán is a perfect example of that. We would have trouble duplicating that today. So our tour, which we call the Nephilim tour, would have taken us into northern Israel, where a lot of these sites are. One of the sites that we love to take people to, of course, is Gilgal Raphaim, and that's called the Wheel of the Giants, the Circle of the Giants. It's 42,000 tons of basalt rock in 5 concentric rings, with a tomb, which I've crawled into, by the way, in the center of the site. But then you get other artifacts like we call it the Nephilim lens.
That was found by a Michigan hiker, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's out. Bob Shelley is hiking around, and he comes into this abandoned campsite, and the lance is there, and it weighs 28 pounds. And he's thinking to himself, do I really want to hike out with this thing? 28 pounds, it's not some light little object. And he's already got a full pack because he's out there camping. But he takes the thing, he brings it to us. We're there. Chief Joseph Riverwind takes one look at it and goes, it's not a sword, it's a lance. And then Chief Joseph tells us, this is mind-boggling, what's in the Native American oral tradition, that the red-haired, six-fingered giants, the Nephilim giants, would raid and come into a village of Native American First Nation people, and with these lances, which are about 3 feet long, and they would run through 3 braves at one time, and they lift them over their head, screaming and yelling, popping their heads off, drinking the blood like a Coke can. I mean, they were unbelievable. And this all from Chief Joseph. He comes on the record and talks about this. So Bob Shelley allows us to test the metal, and we take a very small sample. We bring it to a highly renowned metal testing lab in an unknown location, and we're met with a technician who assures us that the lab will be able to ascertain roughly when the thing was made, what the composition is, all the particulars that we're looking for. Well, 6 weeks go by. We were supposed to have the answers in 2 weeks, and I'm calling. It's like, where's the results? So I fly back into this place. It's near Detroit. I fly back in, and I meet Bob Shelley there, and we're there now. But all of a sudden, the technician has a PR person next to her. She won't talk to us directly. Everything has to be censored with the PR person, and she is absolutely just. I mean, this is the managed agenda.
And she's got the whole thing?
She's just got a very small piece of it.
Okay.
One of the things I refused to do and told Bob Shelley this, we're just going to take a piece of the lance. No way we're going to let this thing out of our sight. No way.
What piece did you take? The handle, the tip, or what?
We just took from the hasp, where it would actually tie into a shaft of wood. The thing weighs 28 pounds. I mean, it's really heavy.
Yeah.
So this guy, Christian Winder, who comes in on the film, and he had a lab, and he heard my lamentation regarding the fact that we weren't really getting a straight shot with the testing. So he tested this thing, and they found isotopic ratios which point back to a Middle Eastern connection, specifically Saudi Arabia, which, of course, that whole area, we call it Nephilim Central. That's where they roam. So it's not conclusive. It could have come from Michigan, but also it could have been, because it's a bronze artifact, the tin definitely comes from Great Britain, no doubt about that. But it looks like it was originated in Saudi Arabia. So the question is, what the heck is that doing in Michigan? And the problem is here, with a lot of these artifacts, there's no provenance to them. In other words, I can't take you to the place where Bob Shelley found it, because someone else found, or maybe it washed up, maybe someone was digging. We don't know the provenance. We only know that Shelley found it at an abandoned campsite. So somebody was digging around in Michigan, and it's really interesting, of course, because Michigan is where those huge copper mines were, and a lot of copper, tons and tons of copper, has gone missing from those mines. Those mines were working and open thousands of years ago, and that created the Bronze Age that we see in Europe. Native Americans worked a little bit in copper, but they didn't make bronze. They didn't do that. They weren't smelting it down and creating bronze artifacts. So this is absolutely an out-of-place artifact, which is very enigmatic. And that's what the whole film is. That shows us that there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. And that's why we're creating these films.
How do you find these places?
You know, I get emails from people all the time, and we go down some wild goose chases. But then we go into places, and all of a sudden, we're sitting there with our jaws on the ground going, you've got to be kidding. One such place was Zambujero in Portugal, which really isn't in the film, although I do allude to it and show some pictures of it in the film. But Zambujero was it was a tell. It was completely covered with dirt. And that begs the question, why was this done? Just like Göbekli Tepe, why did they bury it? Why is the site closed down and then buried? Why is Zambujero thousands of miles away in Portugal?
And who buries it?
Well, that's my point. That's what I'm working on. Because something is going on here, and it's global, George. It's not just in one area, it's global. And it happens at different time periods. When you look at Gilgal Raphaim, the same thing. When you look at Göbekli Tepe, the site's covered. When you go to Zambujero in Portugal, huge megalithic stones. They're over 20 feet tall. There's a tumulus there. And the whole thing was covered up with dirt. When you go to America Stonehenge, the site is closed down. The site was closed down originally. What we know now is the sacrificial table. They didn't even know what it was. They just thought it was bedrock. There were vines growing on it. They didn't know what it was. And so the archaeologists went in and they started uncovering this thing. And then they realized, oh my gosh, what's this? But we hear about this over and over and over again, and it's global. So something is going on which we're not privy to, which we don't understand yet, and that's why I really can't spill the beans, because I'm not sure what I'm looking at either.
Are these artifacts, L.A., all created about the same time period?
No, they're all different time periods.
All different.
For instance, the Nephilim lance is much closer to our timeline than what we see down in Peru. There's this very enigmatic bus which was found in an abandoned, in a mine shaft. And when we filmed it, something happened, George, which was we show it in the film, which was incredible, because as I'm filming this thing, we're in a museum, and I've got lights on it, and the camera is set up, and we're seeing detail in this bust which we've never seen before. The owner of the bust had never seen it before either. He was blown away. We were blown away. So I went with this a couple of weeks ago, and someone said, L.A., are you aware that this bust, which shouldn't be there in the Americas, but it's there. It's definitely a Caucasian man. And it actually looks, and now that it's been pointed out to me, it's very reminiscent of the face on the Shroud of Turin.
Really? Like Jesus?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually going down that rabbit hole and sending pictures of the bust to some sinologists and trying to get their take on it. What are we looking at here? This thing was found tens of feet below the surface of the earth. I mean, it was just hidden away in some underground chamber someplace. And until we really photographed it and had it, something happened with the mirrorless camera. It brought out definition that you don't see with the naked eye.
L.A., would you say most of the artifacts that you've been talking about have been hidden?
Well, some of them are absolutely in plain sight. I mean, obviously, the Vatican Obelisk is sitting in.
That's right there, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what amazes me is some of it is just millions of people go by it every single year and have no idea really what they're looking at, and they don't know the history of this thing, as we talked about. The Nephilim lance, according to Chief Joseph, this is what these 9, 10, 12-foot giants, this is what they used, the red-haired giants that we hear from Sacsayhuamán. The thing weighs 28 pounds, and, again, our research with the Nephilim lance, we discovered that Ishbi-Benob, who was one of the giants mentioned in the biblical prophetic text, his spearhead, when you calculate the shekels and you move it into pounds, it's basically 28 pounds.
My God.
So, am I positive that this was used by the giants? Well, I picked the thing up, and it's 3 feet in length, and it's 28 pounds, and it was a lance.
How far could you throw it?
Not far at all. I mean, it was extremely unwieldy. Now, remember, we didn't have it. It wasn't on a haft. It wasn't mounted. But just the weight of that thing. I mean, it's 30 pounds, 28 pounds. It's a lot of weight, and it's 3 feet long, and it's ancient. I mean, whoever made this, it was cold pounded. Just like many of these artifacts that we see, some of them are hidden in plain sight. Others are, kind of hustled away, like the 39-day stone that we have in America's Stonehenge. So there it is, and it's got numerals on it, and that site is incredibly enigmatic. It's right here in America, in New Hampshire, America's Stonehenge. It was also called Mystery Hill. Again, we've discovered some things which are very, very enigmatic about that site. But here's the deal. The 39-day stone points to the Feast of Beltane, which is 39 days after the equinox. Then you come to May 1st. Native Americans knew nothing about Beltane, the celebration of Baal. And we've discovered not only there at America's Stonehenge, but we've discovered another site in the Americas, which on May 1st and November 1st, the spring equinox and the fall equinox, the sun comes right over, at the spring equinox, it comes right over the gate, bam. How was that possible? And that's, of course, is the celebration of Beltane. So there it is. It's hidden. Thousands of people, tens of thousands of people go to these sites every year. They have no idea what they're looking at. They read the placards and the signs that tell us that Native Americans did this or that, but they didn't. And here's something incredibly mysterious about America's Stonehenge. When you sit there at the center of their henge, the center of their site, and you look to where the 39-day stone, the Baal stone is, that's the only standing stone on the site which has been toppled. It's on the ground. Every other standing stone, and there's probably 20 of them, they're still erect, they're there. But the Baal stone, the one that points to the basically Beltane, okay, May 1st, is toppled. And that's what really got me thinking.
What the heck do you think is going on?
I think there's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. I think it points to supernatural intervention. We may differ on what we call that. Some people want to say it's ET that's doing it. Myself, these are extra-dimensional, interdimensional entities. They're not from another planet. They're from another dimension. So we can argue that till the cows come home, but we do agree that something's going on. Some entity is coming here with technology that we don't have today, and that can manipulate space-time, matter, and energy, that their knowledge of advanced geometry, spherical trigonometry, whoever constructs some of these sites, whoever manipulates the granite or the stones at Sacsayhuamán, removes these things, they have technology which we don't have today. We just don't. We've got cranes and diamond saws and all this other stuff. Show me how to build a 20-foot wall. So there's this hidden history. And it's not only in Peru, it's in the Americas, it's over in Europe. It's a global phenomenon. And that's why we're on the trail.
Do you accept the principles of the Bible, L.A.? Some people don't.
Completely. Yeah, completely. I mean, I was immersed in the New Age. My third eye was open. I lived in an ashram for 3 years. I was with a guru. I had spirit guides, as I mentioned. So I've been on the upper side of the aisle. And then at the ripe age of 30 years old is when everything began to change. And that's when I gave my life to Jesus. I had no idea what to expect, actually. And what happened to me was very similar to a Paul on the road of Damascus. It was very intense, very severe, and I was in sort of like a spiritual boot camp for 3 years. I had two mentors who mentored me. Both men one was old enough to be my father. The other one was old enough, too. He's 20 years older than me. And these men sort of groomed me, mentored me, taught me what to look for, and helped me through a very intense 3 years, very intense period of my life. So that's my foundation. And the experience has only gotten more intense. It hasn't lessened. It hasn't waned or gone away or changed. And it's just gotten even more intense, and to the point where what was written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding. I'm talking about the prophetic implications of the biblical narrative. They're unfolding right in front of us today. It's all around us if we have eyes to see.
L.A., of all the elements that you put into out-of-place artifacts, is there one that just really shocked you the most?
Yeah, it was the Bowstone. Interesting you should just say that, because that's when I'm in the museum, and Kelsey Stone, who's the grandson of Robert Stone. So Robert Stone bought the site decades ago. Kelsey's third generation. So Kelsey's taking me through a tour of the museum, showing me the 39-day stone. And I don't understand what that is yet, because they hadn't explained it to me. And I get to this one display case, and I go, well, what's here? And Kelsey goes, well, these are the stones with writing that we found at the site. Oh, really? What's this one say? And he goes, well, that's the dedication stone, and it says, to Baal of the Canaanites in dedication. I go, what did you just say? And he kind of laughs nervously, and he goes, to Baal of the Canaanites in dedication. It's like, what is this doing in New Hampshire? It was written in Iberian Punic. It sat there for 11 years in the museum. No one could decipher it. Enter Dr. Barry Fell from Harvard University, who looked at it and said, this looks like Iberian Punic. I think I can translate it. He translated it. None of these guys have a Nephilim dog in the hunt, as it were. To Baal of the Canaanites, this is Nephilim Central. This is the whole deal right here. The Nephilim were there. And this site, that stone was buried in what they call the Chamber of Ruins, about 2 feet, 18 inches to 2 feet below the surface. Why was it buried? Why is the chamber collapsed? These are questions that I'm probing into, because there might be an answer here, because it has to do with other sites as well. So, the bottom line is that stone shouldn't be here. And when you go online and you look up Barry Fell and the Baal stone, they disparage him. Well, okay, that's, typical ad hominem attacks. Why don't we look at the translation and tell us where we're going wrong? Barry Fell died years ago, so he can't defend himself. But instead of doing the ad hominem attacks against Mr. Fell, Professor Fell, teaching at Harvard, and that wasn't his first discipline, I get it. But let's look at his work and prove him wrong. If it is Iberian Punic, then you translate it, find someone who can translate it, and show us where he's going wrong. He has no Nephilim dog in the hunt. I do. So for me, that translation was an absolute mind blower.
Well, thanks. Come back again, my friend.